Okay, all right, and we're live. And it's time to start the meeting. It's the 19th of January. Welcome to the Meshery development call. We have this call once a week. We do a couple of things every week. We welcome newcomers if we have any. Looking through the list, there's just shy of 20 of you. And you're all old timers. Crotchety old timers. Oh, okay. Good. Nice to see everybody back. I think everyone, or for sure, everyone has introduced before. Everyone's been here any number of times. So that's great. So you know the drill in terms of webcams. Turn them on if you got them. Nice to see you. Drop your name into the list. Else, it's like you were never here. Also, if you've got agenda items, plop them in. And otherwise, we're ready to go. And so Nitish, it sounds like we're going to talk about, well, actually, Nitish, let me preempt this real quick before we talk about Meshery v07, the upcoming release, the upcoming version to work on. I want to ask all those on the call now about the current version of Meshery. There was a release made, release candidate for the v060 version. Tons of things packed in there from the .5 release to .6, tons of things. So plenty of opportunity for bugs. I know I got a chance to run release candidate 4. Has anyone else? Does anybody else have comment on it? So Meshery Operator and Meshsync were released as well as part of release candidate 4, or new releases of those were made. There's still work on Meshsync to be done. That work doesn't block the .6 release though. Meshsync is doing its job, just not terribly well, or could be doing it better, more efficiently. I know there were a number of enhancements released in the release candidate 4. Maybe the most significant from a UI perspective is the pattern configurator. Lots of enhancements done since the last release candidate. So that's a good area to go in and test or use. Okay, any other comments on that last release candidate? Hopefully that's the final release candidate. Like that's we're all teed up. We're all ready. So if any of you are interested in, so we talked for quite a bit in the past about writing up the feature sets, either small blogs that kind of describe the features that you've worked on or that you're aware of, even if you didn't work on them, that's fine. Or small recordings about how to use a particular thing, or maybe just a small recording that explains the behavior behind the scenes. So certainly recordings of use of Meshery CTL, recordings of use of Meshery UI. Those are all very helpful to people understanding how the system works, what the new features do. So if anyone's up for those things, there's a perpetual call for that. And there was a whole set of organized issues and blog posts to be written for .6. Some of those have been written already. And I know that doesn't always, isn't always exciting work for some, or people just don't know where to start or how to do it. And so, but for my part, I'll fill in the blanks where we have blanks. But yeah, but if you want to write anything about .6, record something about .6, let's do it. Or do it and we'll get it posted. We'll include it as part of the release announcement. So Any comments on .6? Any other? Okay, Nitish is with us. So Nitish, do you want to take the next topic?
Yeah, sure. So the first thing is that is about the Meshery V0.7 UI architectural overhaul. So let me just yeah. Just a sec. Okay, so we are about to bring in some huge architectural changes to Meshery UI in terms of mostly like these changes would not be user facing in the sense that they wouldn't be able to see those changes, but these actually impact the way our UI is going to work and function. So yep. So some of the things that we're actually introducing are you can actually look at this proposal to understand like what things are, why are we doing this, and what's the reason behind all this stuff, and an explanation about why we chose certain things. So all those stuff can be found here. The link is also there in the meeting minutes. So yeah. So like as a part of that, we would be introducing Redux observables and a bunch of other stuff as well, which actually would impact Meshery UI in a positive way. And we are also going to change. I mean, yeah, change a little bit of designs in the UI as well, and that would be for V0.7. So if anyone over here like who's looking to contribute to UI and wants to get familiar with React or Next.js, or yeah, we are basically using React and Next.js mostly. So if they want to get familiar with it or work on that, then it's probably a great place to start out. And you can actually look at links are provided over here. So I don't have to explain all these things. Like yeah, you can go to the contributors guide, and there would actually be a detailed explanation as to how you can start out and how you can start contributing. So if you get blocked by something, or you have some questions or something, like feel free to ping on Slack anybody. Just put a message on Meshery UI channel. Like people would love to respond to that. So yeah, that's the first topic. And yep, just jump in and start contributing to it. It's going to be exciting because like yeah, there are a lot of new things happening. So you should be excited. All right. So the next thing is okay. We have been having some problems with the way we are actually implementing GraphQL subscriptions right now, and uh, I wouldn't be able to go over what all the problems that are exactly facing, but then like to give you a brief about what those are like. So essentially, like subscriptions are supposed to be deltas in the sense that so whenever let's say we have a data source and something changes in the data source, then that should actually trigger the subscription to send that particular delta alone. But then the way we are implementing subscriptions right now, those are not how we are implementing it, in the sense that they whenever you actually listen to any of the changes in the database, and then like you actually query the database, whole database, and then send it over to Meshery UI or any other client for that matter. So this is something that we have to fix soon. And yeah, this is actually one of the many problems that I wouldn't say like the problems that I'm talking about. Those are not very evident, and people who are using the UI or Meshery server would not be able to recognize this because like it's not that evident. So but it is actually uh, impacting in a negative way a little bit here and over there. So still those things have to be taken care of. So as a step to I've taken a step towards that by changing some things in how Meshsync actually works. So if you don't know what Meshsync is, it's kind of like the it is responsible for syncing the cluster state and sending out to Meshery components. So basically that's to put it in a simple way. So its job is to send the events like whenever something in the cluster changes, it will actually send events to the all the other components. Basically it would publish those events to the NAT subscriber. I mean NATs is basically a pubsub messaging. component. So it would actually send that over to the NATs, and then like Meshery UI or Meshery whatever the client is, they can actually use that and do whatever they want to do with it. So yeah, so right now, like some of the changes that I've made, I would like to demo those right now and see if see where we can take it from here. Okay, I'll just explain what's the setup that I have here. So I've just started. So this Meshery server, it's actually, I've made some changes to it. So this is not the one that you would find in the master right now. And this is a Meshsync that I've run locally, and this is also, I've made some changes to this as well. So yep, and I have a NAT server running locally, so that like Meshsync could publish to it, and then Meshery server could subscribe to it and receive the updates. So basically, like some of the, I will just talk about the changes that I've made right now and how it impacts Meshery. So one thing you could notice is that so after it starts, like you can see these three messages over here. So these are basically the changes that I've made. One is that first, so I would, before that, I would like to take some time to explain how Meshery server would, what Meshery server would do when it actually starts right now. So um, uh, so right now, like whenever Meshery server starts, it would have some data in the database, and whenever Meshery UI as a client, whenever it initializes, it would actually create a subscription with Meshery server, and that subscription is a trigger to that is a trigger which would actually ask Meshsync to resync the cluster. Resync in the sense, it would actually ask all the informers that they have to set up watch connections with the Kubernetes API, and then like get the events and pass it down to the Meshery server. So right now, like if you think about it, like Meshery UI is kind of controlling the behavior of Meshery server. That is like, that's actually the trigger point to start raising the cluster and then get the events back. But what we can actually do is that this resync might actually be redundant in the sense that every time you refresh a page, it would actually ask machine to resync. But I don't think that is an optimal way of doing it, because in Meshsync we actually have all those informers have a store within them, and those stores actually capture all the events, and they actually kind of reflect the state of the cluster. So instead of sending instead of whenever a page refreshes, you ask Meshsync to resync and get those subscribe to, dispose all the connections that it has, and then like reestablish those connections. You can just use this to ask it to send the data that is in the store instead of resyncing. And even this can only be done whenever Meshery server is initializing. So basically that's what I've done now. So whenever right now Meshery server initializes, it would actually dispose the data, that Meshsync objects that it has in the database right now, and then it would subscribe to the store updates in Meshsync. So basically, like after the subscribe, after that, it would actually ask Meshery, the Meshsync to send the data in the store, and then it would get the data and store it in the database. So this is one thing like that's changed right now. That is like, so how it would impact is that it would actually reduce a lot of those network calls between Kubernetes APIs. Although you might think that it's not actually a huge deal, but then still we can reduce it. So it's actually good. And the other thing is that right now uh, we actually have the ability to because of the changes that has been made into Meshsync and the Meshery server, we now have the ability to create subscriptions that send just deltas rather than fetching the whole database and then sending stuff. So to give you an example, let's say I open the UI right now. So if you want to ask something in between, please stop me and we can discuss about it. Yeah. And my token as expert. So let me.
Yeah, I'll toss in a comment just to say that while much of what Nitish is referring to, kind of boils down to efficiency improvements, it ends up being a little bit more than that. It actually doesn't take too large of an environment for those repetitive messages that are being sent from Meshsync to start to have a performance impact, not only on Meshery itself, but on Kubernetes as well. Like we want to be a good citizen in terms of managing the environment, and not what is the oath? oh geez, I forget the oath. I don't know if it's like, I don't know. Don't. Anyway, we don't want to harm the things that we're managing. And so we want to be efficient. The other thing that is part and parcel to this enhancement is that there are other behaviors that manifest as part of receiving updates, repetitive updates about the same objects over and over and over again. It's unnecessary and can be confusing to different aspects of the system. So like Meshsync was always designed to be efficient in the way in which it takes a full snapshot of the state of interesting objects in Kubernetes, synchronizes those with Meshery server, and then on an ongoing basis provides, only sends over changes, deltas, about objects that may have been deleted or updated. So yeah, that's part of what Nitish is talking about. I think he's, if I got it right, he's also alluding to the efficiency by which, so I think we've been using some GraphQL subscriptions. We've been using some GraphQL fetches. Desire to be using subscriptions, largely using subscriptions in most places. Really anywhere that there's a Meshery client that's using GraphQL, ideally it's an event-driven thing. They're receiving the latest. There's some enhancements to the way that Meshery is establishing the connection between Meshery UI and Meshery server in terms of GraphQL, and making sure that there's a single socket opened, a single connection established, and that it's a persistent connection irrespective of users refreshing the page or navigating to other screens, that connection persists. Any number of individual query subscriptions can be maintained on that same physical connection. So good. So Nitish, we might have lost you. Yeah. So yeah, I think.
Yeah. So, yep. Okay. Is it fine now?
Yep.
Okay. I hope I'm audible. Am I?
Yep. Yes.
Okay. So as you can see my screen, like right now I'm going to create a dummy namespace so that like we can see if the updates are getting sent to the UI. So we actually have an open subscription over there. So we can see that like these deltas are getting added to the. So basically, like this is rather than querying the database and sending the data over, we now have this deltas, basically like whether it's an add event or a delete event. So because we have some Istio installed, like it would actually add some other stuff as well while creating the namespace. So that's why we are seeing a bunch of other stuff as well. But yep. So this is basically the stuff that I wanted to show, and from here, like, so we can actually we should actually think about we should actually work on changing the subscriptions that we have right now, which are not based on deltas, to send deltas rather than fetching the queries. And there are a bunch of subscriptions where we are doing that as well. So probably the next step would be to change those subscriptions as well. And yep.
Yeah, so Nitish, to take that one step further, what does that change look like? Like how much effort is involved in updating those subscriptions to behave in this manner?
So actually, like yeah, one more thing that I wanted to talk about and I missed out was so right now, like one more change that's made is that like this does impact like what are the changes that we have to make to our graphical subscriptions that we currently have. And the thing is that so essentially like the architecture that we are going to follow right now, I mean like that is being implemented right now by the changes that I've made, it actually ensures that Meshery server as a component, it actually establishes a connection with the broker whenever it initializes, and that particular connection is unique to it. So that's a connection where we can actually attribute that particular connection to Meshery server. And when a subscription like right now as it is implemented, you can think of it as a okay, like let's say we have a subscription and Meshery UI as a client, and let's call that subscription listen to Meshsync events, and that's what it's called right now. So basically, what the logic of the subscription would do is that so whenever a client is connected, it would actually establish a new connection to the NATS subject where Meshsync would actually send those events, and then it would directly proxy. It would act as a proxy and send those events directly to the client. So that is how. Mm, yeah, so that's actually the current architecture that's being implemented right now. So if you think in that sense, then it's not actually much of a it wouldn't actually be much of a change. But although like each subscription is actually doing its own thing, so we might have to do some different things based on what the subscription is supposed to do. For instance, like not all subscriptions are going to subscribe to the like I'm talking specifically about the subscribers which are actually in some way connected to the Meshsync events, and not other subscriptions such as performance profiles and all those stuff. I'm not talking about those. I'm only talking about those which are connected with the Meshsync events. So yep, if you so for those kind of subscriptions, it's just that we can just follow the same step, and then like as you get the event, like for example, let's say we have this control plane state that's being displayed over here, and we would do the same thing. That is like okay, whenever first we would actually get the whole state of the cluster, and then like figure out what we should show initially, and then from there we would we would have that logic in the UI based on like whenever this add event or delete event comes, you actually change the UI. So that's yeah, that's basically what we would want to do. So essentially, like what I'm trying to say is that the logic that that we should be following is this: that is like we should have a separate connection with the NAT subject, and the graphical subscription should act as a proxy, and we can actually perform some transformations on the events before we sending it to the front end.
Okay. Yeah, sounds like there'll be a couple of things written down about it, because we can make transformations on events today, right? Because that wouldn't be new. It should be written down that we shouldn't. You shouldn't answer my questions, because it'll only confuse everyone involved. But anybody have comments on this though, other than me? So one of the takeaways here is that if you've been seeing the same updates coming from Meshsync in your Meshery server logs, I think part of the work here is to help eliminate that. So.
Yep, and also like one more thing that it would so previously, like if you had noticed, you would see that sometimes in the database objects that are not there in the cluster would actually show up, would still be there, and this would actually address that as well. That is like you wouldn't have, like whenever you start Meshery server, the data that's in the database, it's a complete reflection of what's in the cluster. Yeah, it ensures that the way we are able to achieve it is that in the informers, like we have stores, and stores provide us the guarantee that eventually it would be consistent with what is the state of the cluster. So essentially, like because since we are just taking the data in the state and storing it in Meshery server, then we can also say that have that guarantee saying that okay, this would actually reflect the state of cluster eventually. Yeah.
Other questions and comments? Okay, okay. Well, that was a little bit of a digression from the previous topic, which is kind of refactoring of Meshery UI in the next release. It looks like a couple of you are, I mean, there's a number of you that have been working toward that on various components. But between Aditya and Yash, are either the two of you wanting to demo some of that work or discuss some of that work?
So I was working on the component bar progress bar component. I think I was required to make MU material UI stylings, which I had implemented it and made a pull request. I guess it's left for review now.
Nice. Okay. And Yash?
I have also made a pull request. You can find in the docs page also. I have made it identical to the navigation we have now. So, yeah.
So by the way, for everyone, for the Aditya's work on the progress bar, that stepper, I don't know that you'll find it in the current release, but that stepper was being used for the connectivity wizard, which is actually this small icon here. And so the connectivity wizard or the connection wizard is something that will be refactored, something that was released kind of in 0.6. Had some trouble. We pulled it back. But the point of that wizard is just to help people be successful deploying Meshery. So that's where a stepper like that, they would be stepping them through getting Meshery set up and connected to their infrastructure. And Yash, you're saying, so you're working on a refactoring of the navigation component. And so within these screenshots.
I can also share my screen.
Sure.
So everything I can find, I've done identical to what we have now. If anyone has any reviews or suggestions.
Yeah. There's one thing that was, well, then I don't want to necessarily call out Manav as having done incomplete work, but I guess I just did. Manav did a great job of that transition and that the expansion from a single button to 4 buttons, and works pretty great. Like all of it works really well. There's one final aspect, and it's that chevron that's sitting, like conceptually, it's supposed to be sitting about halfway across the line of the navigation, pane, and then the rest of the main screen view. And we're slightly off. It's actually, okay. And the thing is like we use chevrons to open and close drawers and panes and things. None of them, other than this one, had we tried to have it split across the, the collapsible entity. And so Yash, for my part, just as if no one else is giving feedback, one thing that I'd love to see is actually not hovering over, halfway over the line, but rather like maybe not actually using the exact same chevron, having a little bit of a different style to it. Yash, can I share this with you real quick? And with everyone else, maybe everyone else can give an opinion. So if you go, I can't see the Zoom. Google.com. I think I saw an example yesterday. Yes, this is nearby where I live, but not exactly. Anyway, point is, if you're out here looking at Austin, Texas, you'll see some things. But the point is, if you, I don't know, if you search for a coffee shop or something. All right, so you get, so here's a pane, a navigation bar, details pane, or whatever you want to call it. Right? And maybe this is in your way because you're trying to look at something right behind it. It makes a nice little noise when you click it. It goes. But Yash, do you see the difference?
Yeah.
Like I want, you know. Wonder if we could. What do you think? Can we try something like that? It seems, you know, instead of hovering on the center, and actually in this case, you see the chevron here. This is basically the same exact arrow that we're using today, and it's fine that we're using it to expand and collapse different panels. Our problem in our collective problem in the one that you're working on in this area was like this used to be right down here in the corner, except then it ran into noisy neighbors with these other icons getting in the way, and the space got all crowded. And so we decided we'd push it out. And so if we just shove it all the way out and maybe use a different style arrow or something, because it's slightly different behavior. What do you think?
Okay, I will try different icons and styling.
And try to hang it off the edge, maybe.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anybody else have a dissenting opinion or a different noise that they would like to hear when you click it? Cool. Good. Great. Good work. All right. Moving on. Garv, configurator feature. Yeah.
Yep. So it's visible. So on our latest release that we have on Meshery, we had made changes to some of the enhancement in the pattern configurator. So it's a good job to make enhancement in every release that we have. So in the current this PR, I have added some of the features to the pattern configurator and some of the styling enhancements. So let's first look at some of the visual styling enhancement that we can see over here. So previously what we were having, that there was a lot of space, white space wastage that we were seeing in this pattern configurator. So I removed that thing and made it a bit clear. And next thing you might have noticed that this was also getting like spaced out, and also I also refined it a bit with some stylings. Next is it is covering two issues. The second one is still in progress. The first one is setting integer as a num with a range of 0 to 10 having in this. So if we can set the range over here, and I guess it should update over here. Yep, it is updating. Plus, yep, that was all. And in the second issue, I have a query. Let me also ask. So, Lee, could you just brief me with this issue once more? Like, that would be much more helpful for me to progress.
Yeah. Yes, just trying to think about how to actually. Just before we brief on that issue, if you go, Nitish had left some feedback, I think, on the current one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do we know what that is? And like, do we? Abhi?
Yep. I was making changes in the main schema, that RJSF schema that we are fetching from that. So that was not required. So I directly changed the type of the main that we were using. So that's not the correct approach. So I reverted that change over here.
Got you. Okay. Yeah. So in the same manner that you, so there are different types of input fields for either receiving numbers or text, or like having a slider, like a certain percentage. And so while you've tackled this one for a numerical input and you've changed it to, replicas to being the up down arrows, The other one, which is great, which is nice to have some diversity. One thing on there, garv, is that, I don't know, maybe this is taking it too far, but probably the numbers that people are going to put in, they probably wouldn't go past 1,000, like the three places. So if we reduce that width, maybe that sort of throws off the symmetry of what's being presented. And so maybe that's not a good suggestion. I don't know.
Okay.
But something to think about. So the other one is when we're trying to represent configuration of different service mesh components, one of the descriptors for an input value, it's called additional properties. So if you go, so additional properties, the type of input field that it's referred to is called string. The thing is so I think to date, we've been mostly, I don't know, there's some funky business where we've been doing like a key value pair of like having people identify a key and then a value for the, and so what's desired here is just if we're being presented JSON to represent as input, and if that element is, if it matches the string additional properties and it's of type string, let's go ahead and display it as a single, just a regular text input field.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got really specific about the acceptance test, which was just to try to help provide clarity.
Yep. Okay. So whenever so it will be become as a conditional thing. So when the type is string, we need to have this acceptances to be done. Otherwise, it will remain as same. Or we should enforce this thing.
Actually, there is a key called additional properties in the schema. If you check it out, right now what happens is in the RJSF form in the pattern configurator, it comes as a new key, which makes no sense. So
yep.
Because we don't have any, we don't have an exceptional rule for the additional properties field. So that is basically what you have to do. There is this. I send the docs in the chat, the RJSF docs. You'll have to write down a rule for that in the UI schema that we use in RJSF.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, that's what Nitish had wrote on the issue, right? You'll have to specify a rule to do that.
Sure. Thanks, Aditya and Nitish. I'll look into the docs.
Yeah. A different way of concisely like phrasing the request is just anytime there's a string input that is called additional properties, then just make sure that it's a single string input, not new key, like not what it is today.
Okay, now I'm getting this. Yep. So that was all for the configurator, and we should always make refinements to this in every release. That's a good thing. Yep.
Yeah. Any other comments for Garv? Uzair, Uzair, are you on today? I ask as if he's not here. As if he wasn't here, then he would respond is how I'm asking. That makes sense. I don't think he's on. That's it. That's a shame. Okay, good. Well, by the way, I think he has an open pull request. This is something, Richa, you might want to give feedback on. Something I think you had given some thought to potentially in the past about how to gracefully handle expired users.
Yeah, Lee, so I did it, but I'm not sure that if I'm in a great position to tell you about this because I lost the track over this issue and started working on SPM logo. So yeah.
Okay. Yep. No problem. Everyone can kind of watch this and from a user experience perspective, provide comment probably. So here he is. There's a user that has an expired token, an expired session. They go to click navigate, And in order for information to be presented, they have to have an actual session. So they just get redirected to log back in. Feels pretty natural. I think there was a design given in terms of the modal, which should be kind of the standard modal, and it's slightly off, slightly not within the design that was given. But has anyone looked into this pull request and understood how it is that session tokens are being validated, how it is that tokens are expired sessions are being redirected? This doesn't necessarily look like Next.js itself is performing that task.
I think like he's sending some response in the header, or yeah, probably like whenever the session expires, like he's actually asking Meshery server to send that the session has expired and you have to redirect, and in the UI you receive that and you show this thing.
Yeah, unless I'm missing the mark here, that's like at least of what's presented, he's got it for one area of the UI of 20 different areas of the UI. Like, it seems like this might be a less than efficient approach.
I don't think there's any code needed to be changed in the server, because we can just if we just have to validate the user, then we can just make a request to the server, like asking for the user information, like we do when we are showing the image of some user on the navbar. So if there is like no login credentials, then it will automatically push 400 500 and we will just
Actually, like the implementation of the fetch, our custom fetch API that we have implemented right now, we can actually put the logic inside there as well. That is like if you actually receive anything from ranging 500 5xx, you can actually it's basically because it's unauthorized, and you can use that to send the user back to the login page.
Yeah, another thing, just one more consideration is like we want so we are sending cookies. So if the token cookie is absent, like the token cookie is absent, then there is no way you can authorize to the server. So we can just check the cookie if token cookie is present in like here and inside the front end, just push it, because those token cookies, like those tokens are, I think, lasted for 1 day, that expires in 1 day, and if the session is not closed, like we don't close our browser, that just that keeps valid. These are some of the 2-3 different approaches that we can try. So,
I vote for the cookie approach.
Say it again, Nitish.
Yeah, I said like the cookie approach seems more reasonable.
Anybody else have comments on that? Yeah, there's a single point of enforcement that we want to do. If you can do it client side, great. There is middleware in each of the REST API calls, the Golang calls, that could also perform the redirect on the back end, like Avi was saying. And that validation of whether or not their token is active or not is already being performed. So that that could be enhanced to also redirect to the extent that the UI, some area of the UI wasn't doing it. So, okay, next up, Mario.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So recently I shared with the team that I was a bit there was something blocking the progress. Some integration test failing. Some differences between GitHub CI and local, but they're solved. It was just a matter of making sure that the server was not running during running the integration test locally. And so now that looks fine. And I'm trying to get the latest changes to rerun the end-to-end tests, finish the the script. There might be some differences in the expected payload that is sent, but hopefully now it's the upload for the pattern can proceed. So I'll share updates as soon as I get that working. I don't know why, but I keep getting issues whenever I follow the contributing Git flow. So I follow the exact same steps, but after rebasing and pushing, I get some warnings or errors. Then I do pull, and then when I push, I suddenly there's more commits than the ones that I the ones that I intended.
Well, yeah. That's actually everybody. I bump my head on that on occasion as well. There is, and this is absolutely worth talking about for a moment because everybody hits this. There's the main contributing guide, and you might have seen it already, but it's still worth highlighting. Is there's a secondary one that's fairly generic. So it's not really specific to. But the trick here, for the most part, is it would kind of be this sequence. I don't know if.
And if you go to the submitting your changes, and it's in the bottom. So I follow all of these steps. Literally, I look at them, and then can you go down the part where it says submitting your changes? So even though I rebase the master, like the one, and new commit, rebase your development branch. So I follow all of the same steps up to this point, and then maybe I can share my screen. But basically, what Git is telling me back when I try to push at that point is, so let me see. It says, yeah. Go ahead, sorry. While I look at this.
Yeah, Mario. So when you rebase your GitHub, so Git history does change. So you have to force push. Otherwise,
so then there's a missing step that I need to force push those changes. Because if I pull, then that's when the changes already in master get repushed in the commit or something.
Yes. So whenever you are rebasing, so you have to force push. That's the thumb rule, because Git history change when you do rebase. So.
Oh, okay. So it's because okay. So then it's a force push and not just a regular push, which is not specified in there. But of course, that's how a push is done when there's a rebase done, right?
Yeah.
With force.
Probably you may not require rebase. Just do git pull upstream master while you are in your branch. Just do git pull upstream and then space master master. So all the upstream changes will be merged to your branch, as well as there will not be too many commits will be added. It won't happen like that. So just then push the regular push will work then.
So then let me just see if this is clear. Okay, so after I rebase master, I'm in the branch. I want to merge back, so I rebase master.
Actually, that right there, that's in part what Avi is pointing out is there.
I need the force over here.
Well,
you shouldn't need it.
Yeah, you shouldn't need to rebase, is what he's calling out. So it should be the case.
So then why are we suggesting this?
I don't know, because teaching people how to do Git is because why are we not explaining to people how to do Cypress every which way? Because there's only so much we can do. I don't know. I mean, it says
if there were any new commits, but where? I think it might not be clear. Commits were in the branch from master.
Yeah, maybe we shouldn't
if that is optional.
Yeah, here's the thing. The other part of the answer is just we don't have the doc and just tell people to sync we just say sync your fork's out of date, sync your fork, and then let them go look it up somewhere else.
Maybe yeah, that'd be good, or at least but let's say you do it, and then so the answer to this problem is that I needed the force argument, right?
Yeah, minus f you will need it.
Okay.
By
got it.
by the way, it is like updating the branch, like rebasing the branch to yours origin master. So probably yours origin may not be the latest one. So you
It
should
is.
like,
I did it. Yeah, it's over here.
okay,
Like here are all the merge upstream master.
okay, that's cool. That's cool then.
Yeah,
So
but good
it's
point. Yeah, it could happen. Okay, got it. Then I'll just keep trying. Think it's clearer now. Thanks.
I added one comment too, so if you can have a look at it too. So
Sure. Sounds good.
Yes.
Thank you.
Since we are at this, like one more thing that I would like to comment about is that, so when we actually use git pull, I don't think the tags will be updated in your local repository. I mean
Your
the
fork.
local, yeah. So like if you want the tags to be there as well, in case of Meshery extensions, like we used to face this issue that when you actually pull, you wouldn't actually be getting the latest tags, and some functionality of Meshery is dependent on the tags in your repo. So so yeah, just something to keep in mind.
Okay. Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
Yeah, so hi guys. So should we talk about the search issue or the lab first? I'm not able to see Lee's screen here.
Oh, weird. Yeah. And Mario, just to finish that off, we might need to update that doc with your learnings, like, to improve what it says there. I think
Which one? Sorry, not following.
the one that README that you were pointing to, like to either include like git fetch, to maybe include a more clear statement on like when you would need to continue with the rest of the steps. And so, yeah, I think for the most part that was copied from a different Git flow that some other project had or something.
Okay.
Aditya, the fix issue. Yeah. Do you just, Aditya, I don't know. Do we need to talk about this? This is like really simple, straightforward thing is just like, hey, if they search for something, don't show them any results. It's kind of the.
Yeah. So yeah, I figured out that the pattern search table uses the fallback that if the search is, if there is nothing, no patterns there, the default thing is that a message saying that sorry, we could not find any match. But for the performance profile, it's a new page with create performance profile. So maybe that was the issue. So what I was thinking, like if we are in table view, we need to create a different error message kind of thing that replicates the pattern way of. Are you getting, or am I? I'll share my screen, or we can move forward this. I think. Wait. Okay, why am I not able to share my screen on Safari? Like, is there something I have to do else? I don't see a share screen in my.
Might be a permissions issue that you haven't given permission.
Buy a new Mac.
Is there? Probably.
If it's the first time that you've shared on that Mac, there will be a permission thing.
No.
We can't hear you.
But
yes,
you're back.
Yeah, I think I can do this. Maybe Lee, you can share that doc, that error doc, and we can have something about that.
So it's on a different topic.
Yeah.
Aditya,
Am I audible? Hello?
You are now.
Yep.
Yeah, all right. So I've been working on the updating the labs. Lab seems not to be working for different adapters. So the current image ID, the Katacoda provided image ID we are running is this Kubernetes cluster running. This had some issues like I have discussed here, like Istio service mesh and the console labs. The volumes are not being mounted, right? And the OSM lab gave us an error saying that it requires an version of Kubernetes greater than or equal to 1.19. So these were some issues we were running in the current Kubernetes cluster ID. Now I was trying different combination of the IDs that were provided by Kubernetes, and so this in this talk I've discussed all the errors that I've faced, and I just wanted to like everyone to go through it, and maybe I ran a wrong code or missed something that might have gone that made the error. If anyone has some feedback about where did I go wrong, that would be great.
Thank you, Jared. So Aditya, yeah, so you're trying out different base images and then different approaches on those base images. The problem, it seems, with this particular image is a lack of permissions to be able to mount a volume, and that's probably not something we can circumvent. That's something that Katacoda is enforcing. Okay, that's a shame, because that would be the most convenient. There would be a pre-existing Kubernetes cluster to interact with. Fine, so you're trying a different base image of Ubuntu 2.14. It doesn't seem to have enough RAM to, or not as much RAM as kubeadm wants it to have. And so then,
yeah, the latest version, yes.
And so you're trying a different way, not using kubeadm, but just, Is this still part of the RAM issue? Or is this different?
The latest version is the RAM issue, but the other one, the 1.19, is not a RAM issue. Only the latest version gives us a RAM issue.
Okay. Okay, and then so on Ubuntu 2014, you're also just trying Minikube by itself. And
yeah, Minikube, yeah, fresh intro.
Okay, so
that also gave us an error of RAM.
Oh, it did. Okay, so you got past the driver issue. So you got past the driver issue with Minikube.
Yeah. I get it with the none one.
Okay, and so existing system. Okay. Yeah. So, well, this is gives credence to the concept that we would have a play.meshery.io, the service mesh playground. So, because this infrastructure is just not working, we should. We should probably reach out to Katacoda and ask what the solution here is, because this type of infrastructure isn't.
Yeah.
Nice. Does anyone else have suggestions? So what happened on Ubuntu 18.04 was what, a new issue, not the failed mount or the RAM?
Yeah, it's a new issue. Like the deployment just timed out, and it's not, the pods are not being ready even after like 15-20 minutes.
Okay. It might be due to RAM.
0 by 0 state.
Yeah, that might be due to RAM. It might be due to the lack of memory as well. That's why the containers might not be coming up. I don't know. So, okay. All right. Let's reach out to Katacoda. Let's ask him what the, if you aren't comfortable doing that or don't know where to ask, then just ping me and I'll help.
Okay. Yeah, I just had one question. The fourth point in this, taint nodes. Can you is that a correct method to do that? Yeah, the fourth point here.
Yeah. So you taint. Not sure
I did
the
not
exact,
know how to create an extra node. So yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I'm not sure of the exact syntax, but how many nodes came inside of the cluster inside of the Ubuntu 18.04?
So I did it with a fresh install that after kubeadm init, it came with one cluster only, like host 01 cluster. And I didn't know how to add another one. So in the doc, it said that we cannot create pods in the control plane cluster. So there was a code for this to make pods in the control plane itself. So I ran this code. So is it like correct or?
I think that I don't think you're going to be successful. I think that you're chasing the red herring. That like, yeah, yeah, it's a good. Let me follow up on Slack with you. Like, but yeah, yes, this would be a good way to like. Actually, I don't know if that command itself will allow you to. If you're untainting, oh yeah. Anyway, I think it doesn't matter. So good. Well, over time.
Attached a link there if you can look at it.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're going to run it. You're probably going to run into the same issue, right? If it's got only 2 gigs of RAM, like if the environment is basically the same, it doesn't really matter if you figure that out. So good. So we're a little bit over time.
Yeah.
A number of people are having to drop off. Richa, did you have? I know I just called you out to demo this, so I don't know that you were necessarily ready. It might be a good one just to drop into the chat and point.
Surely. I will attach the screen recording on the chat Slack.
Nice. Cool. Very good. Well, we're just out of time. I've got a couple of items for next time. So thanks all for coming. See you on Friday, hopefully. Okay.
Thanks all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.